How's it going, everybody?
You know who it is.
My name is Sanwoo, and in today's video we are gonna take an in-depth look at the OP-1 field's pattern sequencer. To be honest, I've often overlooked the pattern sequencer because at first glance it seems rather limiting. It has a maximum of 16 steps available, which means that the sequences you do generate with it are rather short and you can only save one sequence at a time. However, it does have a few interesting tricks that I think make it a creative tool for making new sequences and doing so in a different fashion than you might usually do. But before we get into that, let's have a look at the basic functionality. First off, we got a sequence in here already. If we want to enter a new sequence, of course, we got to delete the old one. As I said, there can only be one sequence at a time. And the way to delete this is by pressing Shift and moving the blue encoder. If we move the blue encoder on its own, we can just navigate through the sequence. However, if we press Shift and turn it, we can erase our sequence. Unlike many of the other sequencers inside the OP-1, in the pattern sequencer you can actually play your notes while on the sequencer page without pressing any other key. And as you might have noticed, this little arrow here shows which note you are currently playing. You can enter notes into the sequencer by holding the Shift key and pressing a note. As soon as I release the note, the marker will move one step to the right, which means if I enter a note now, it will be entered on the second step of the sequence, and it will continue doing so. If I want to leave pauses in the sequence, I could move to the right using the blue encoder or move around using the arrow keys. And this way you can easily build up a sequence. And as you can see, at the end it wraps around back to the beginning. I could even add another layer on top now. I personally enjoy this method of layering a melody like this, and I never really know what comes out, so maybe this will sound nice, maybe it won't. Let's find out. We can play the sequence by pressing the red encoder. Sounds alright. As you probably noticed, the sequence was playing forward and then backward again. You can change the playback direction or playback type by pressing and holding Shift and turning the red encoder. You can play it forward and backward like I just did, only forward, or in reverse. And as you just saw, I can change it midway. Furthermore, we have a swing function on the beige encoder, which means that every other step will be either shifted to the right or to the left, so the notes in between. Just to give your sequence a little bit of a different feel. But let's turn it back to 50%. Alright, but now let's get to the interesting functionality of the sequencer. First, I'm gonna make it so it plays forward again. And then we get to what the gray knob does. So the gray knob can shorten the sequence, for example, 8 steps long. Or something odd like 7 steps as well. And we can even move this gray window around. So now we are playing a different part of our sequence. So you can find these little pockets within your larger sequence, which I think is really interesting. And of course, again, while this is playing, you can move it around. So you can, in a way, interact with your sequence and play the sequence live, if that makes sense. But that's not the only thing this allows you to do, because now that we have set this window, I can also move the notes inside this window around. By pressing Shift and then turning the beige encoder, you'll see that these notes will be now shifted to the right or shifted to the left. And this always adheres to the size of this window. So if I make this window very wide, it will shift all the notes to the right or to the left. And if I make this window very short, like this, I'm only editing the notes inside of it. So let's see what happened to the sequence now. And to me, this way of working with a sequencer is actually really interesting because it reminds me of chopping samples, because you're taking these small chunks and then flipping them around and rearranging them, and you're creating a new sequence out of already existing material. So that's why I think the pattern sequencer is quite interesting, although it is limited, and all of this can be done quite quickly and intuitively. I can just change the window size, move the window around, flip these notes, flip them some more, and I've got a new sequence. Something else that I gotta point out is that when I play back the sequence, it will always play the notes as I have entered them, so it's not transposing these notes when I press play. However, when I go to the tape screen and I play back my sequence, it will play the original pitch when I press the C key, but it will transpose it if I press any other key. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing worth mentioning is that you can also erase notes by re-recording the same note over an already existing note. So down here I've got this note. If I press Shift and record it again, it gets deleted. All right, let's check out a few more sequences. And that's it for today's video. I hope you learned something. If you want to learn more about the OP-1, the OP-Z, or music making in general, do not hesitate to contact me for private online lessons. Link up there. You'll also find all the presets that I've used in this video there, so if you liked any of the sounds, go ahead and download them. Watch these videos for free and leave me a like if you want, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, have a wonderful time. Peace.